So I am Charnaie Gordon. Um, my story is, I always say it's very unique, I think. My background and my educational background is in IT and computer science. So I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in computer science. And I did that work for over 15 years, working as a computer programmer. And I loved it. Loved it. I'm still very much a techie at heart. I love all things technology. And, but I was just in this space of wanting to branch out and maybe try to work for myself. And so when the pandemic hit, it really kind of made me go inward and start really thinking about, what do I want for my life? What do I want the next 5 to 10 years to kind of look like and feel like? And I had already been feeling even prior to the pandemic, I had already been feeling like I wanted to make a change in some sort of way, particularly in my career. Mm-hmm. I felt like I wasn't really being challenged enough and growing. And the only way for me to go up in the company was to either make like a lateral move or to, apply for like a management job, which I really just didn't want to do. And so once I kind of started thinking about what do I want to do and, all of that, I just kind of said, well, I just want to try to work for myself for a while. And so I've been doing that since August of 2020. So it's been a little over a year. And so now I work for myself as a diversity and inclusion expert, as a speaker, a writer, and a full-time content creator. So, and then I also run my own podcast and my 501c3 nonprofit. So wearing many hats these days, yes. But it's all really exciting.
No, as you mentioned, you have so many roles. You author, bookstagrammer, podcast host, nonprofit founder, content creator. And I was really surprised. I didn't know about your background in computer programming until I started getting ready for this interview. So what made you decide to transition to those? When you were looking to make a change, why children's literature?
Right. So I had been doing my blog since 2015. February 2015 is when I started. And I had already, not really intentionally trying to do so, but I had already built up this amazing community of parents and grandparents, educators, librarians, publishers, and authors, illustrators who love books as much as I do. And so I had this thriving community going on. I had 2 children's books contracts like under my belt at the time. I got my first contract in 2019.
Which one was that for?
That was for A Friend Like You.
Okay.
Yeah. So
show people that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that came in 2019, although the book didn't publish until this year.
Okay.
But we signed the contract in 2019. And then for a kid's book about diversity, that also was contracted in 2019 as well. Or maybe it was 2020. I don't remember. But anyway, I think it might have been end of 2019. And then I wrote it in 2020 and it came out in 2021. But I had already had this community kind of going, and I felt like I could make a career out of it, but I wasn't sure. And so I waited a little bit longer. I waited until, August of last year to kind of make the move. And that's really why. It was really because I had already had this community established. I had been getting more offers to do more things that were paid. And so I said, why not just go for it?
Oh, that's wonderful. It's so exciting to see. I mean, for somebody, for me who does a lot of book reviews, it's exciting to see what you've done with your platform and with your audience. Just to go back to the children's books, there's also this one that you edited. And again, A Friend Like You. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of your other books, but I was able to get these. And one of the things that struck me about is in your books, you really take on the big issues. Your Race Cars is about white privilege. You know, you have a book on diversity. Why did you decide to take on these topics, and why do you think it's so important to talk to kids about these as they're young? And do you have any advice for parents and educators as they're trying to figure out how to have, you know, the talk with their kids?
Right. Yeah. So I was approached about Race Cars directly from the publisher. It was a self-published book that was actually originally published in 2016, I believe, by Jenny Devenny. She's the author. And Jenny Devenny, she's a white woman. And, you know, she wrote this amazing book and it was great. And she got really good feedback about it. But when it got acquired by Quarto Kids, they bought it, they bought the rights to it and they wanted to publish it, but they wanted to bring on a person of color just to kind of, you know, possibly make some changes in the book and just make sure that it wasn't really being offensive to people of color. And so they approached me, and at first I was kind of hesitant on it. And I was like, well, I don't know, you know, I've never edited a book before. I don't know if I can do this. So there was some hesitancy at first. And also because we're talking about a tough topic like white privilege. I didn't know how it was going to be received. But then after I thought about it, I said, well, why not? Why not? So I just kind of went for it. And then with the diversity one, again, I was approached directly by the publisher on that one as well, to just, you know, write about diversity. And that one for me was like not a no-brainer. It was just like, yep, I'm definitely doing that.
Sure, right.
You know, so that's how those kind of came about. But as far as why it's important, I mean, these are things that we should just be talking to children about from a very young age anyways. That's what I truly believe. And you know, we're living in a time where, you know, tough conversations need to be had, whether they're had from the parents. You would hope that it would start at home first, because I think that's where a lot of these things start. It should start in the home. But if the children are not getting it at home, you know, then the school would be the natural, you know, second place that they should be learning about this. Although I know there's a lot of pushback currently, you know, at the time of the interview right now regarding critical race theory and all of that. But I just think it's important. I think it's important to be able to build up empathy in children, to be able to build up like things like acceptance, right? We just want to be able to teach kids to just be kind and accept everyone for who they are, no matter what they look like, no matter what their skin color is, their religion, you know, all of these things. And I think those conversations really start at an early age. You know, children are ready to understand, and they can understand, and they're ready for these kinds of conversations in a way that they can, you know, that they can understand it in age appropriate ways. I don't think it's hard to start having these kinds of conversations about what's fair, what's unfair, you know, knowing the difference between right and wrong. Kids understand that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they have a really good sense. I mean, as you know, anybody who's worked with kids and you try to divide, they have a really good sense of what's fair and what's not fair. Yeah, like you said. And what's great about these books is they're really great tools and resources for people who want to have these conversations, and maybe they don't know how to start because maybe nobody had these conversations with them until they were much older. So I think these are really wonderful resources. And another place where you've really help people focus on diversity, especially diversity in children's literature, is on your platform on Instagram and your blog. If somebody had asked me 5 years ago what a bookstagrammer was, I would have had no idea what they were even talking about. But but of course now that was how I first found out about you, was through Instagram. And like you said, you have this really thriving community. You have this amazing platform that you have really used very intentionally, I think. And I know I read someplace on maybe it was on your blog, that when you work with brands or you work with companies, that you are really select, or you're very intentional about who you work with and make sure they align with your values. So I really appreciate how you've used your platform How did you get started? You said that was kind of how it started for you, was with the blog, and I'm imagining the Instagram was an extension of that. But how did that come about? How that got started in the first place, and how do you see that role today? How are you trying to use that platform?
Yeah, right. So in the beginning, in 2015, I only had the blog. And I just made the decision one day to just start. I was looking for some sort of creative outlet. I had, at the time when I started the blog, I had 2 kids under 2. And so, we had our kids 15 months apart. And to keep some sense of sanity with myself, I needed something else to kind of do and something else to focus on. Love my kids to death. But the natural thing for me was to create a book blog. And, because I was always getting asked about book recommendations, whether it be for book recommendations for adults or for children, because a lot of my friends, we had kids all around, the same time. And so they wanted to know what books I was reading with my kids so that they can read them with their kids. And so I said, well, let me just start a book blog. And I did. And so in the beginning, I just had the blog. I wasn't doing any other social. First of all, I didn't even know Instagram was a thing.
Right.
Back then, I didn't know. I think I had a Facebook page. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had a Facebook page, but I didn't have like a Facebook page for my blog.
Right.
So it wasn't until like later in 2015 that I started the Instagram page. And that started off really slow. I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't even know Bookstagram was a thing. It took probably a couple of months before I started to learn my way around Instagram, the platform. And then I started to kind of build community and network with other people and that were doing the same thing that I was doing. And so that's really kind of how it started there. How I am using the platform today is similar to how I was using it when I first started, but in ways it's different. It's different in that I'm now incorporating sponsored campaigns more so than I was before.
Sure.
Before I was just talking about books that I enjoyed reading either for myself or with my children. And now I still do the same thing. I still talk about books, but I'm also working sometimes with publishers. Sometimes I'm working with brands to talk about educational products for children, or just, kind of like lifestyle things. But, again, I try to be intentional about what I'm talking about. If it's a product that I'm always using anyway, that I've been using for years, I'll absolutely do it. But yeah, that's the way it's different really now. But other than that, I'm still passionate about books. I just need to make some money.
Yes, good for you. That's great.
Right.
And how do you go about choosing, just to go back to the books, how do you choose which books you're going to review? Are these just kind of happy library finds? I mean, I'm sure you're approached by publishers now to review their books. I know how that goes. But how do you decide which ones that you're actually going to put on your platform?
Yeah, I really just do what resonates with me. Most of the time when you see me posting a book, it's just a book that I truly love, or a book that, my kids really like. There are times when I'll post a book that is part of a paid campaign from a brand. But most of the time when I'm posting books, it's books that I truly just like. And the way I choose them is really just if it really speaks to me, right? That's really what it is, whether it be through the text or the illustrations or a combination of the two. If it resonates with me, and I've read a lot of books over the years, then I have a pretty good understanding and a pretty good feeling about what's going to make my audience say, wow, oh, this is a book,
Right.
I need it, right? I've been doing this long enough where I kind of understand that, and I can kind of read something or see something and say, yep, my audience is going to like this. And
You
so
have
I
that
try to
intuition.
I try to choose books that way, really.
And has that changed as your children have gotten older? Because I know as mine have gotten older, I find myself including more chapter books and middle grade books, whereas before it was pretty exclusively picture books.
Right. It has kind of changed. Not
Mhm.
really yet, because I still love picture books. I think I will always
Yes,
love picture books.
same.
But and so I primarily a lot of people were saying, well, where's the board books or where's the chapter books? And I'm like, look, I love picture books for me, right?
Uh-huh.
So my kids, they are now 7 and 9. And so they're kind of phased out of the picture book phase for their own personal independent reading. But we do read aloud a lot of picture books still, like I'll still read aloud with them. But they have now transitioned into like the early chapter books and just chapter books on their own for their own independent reading. But I primarily still only post picture books just because I love them.
Yeah, they are really, I agree. They are really special genre. And just to go on about your work with your podcast is a little different because you're actually doing interviews, which must be pretty exciting after so many years of reviewing books to actually talk to authors. And if I understand correctly, your podcast is not just about children's literature, it's also books for adults. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite interview that you've done?
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me pick one. Oh, a favorite. I can't pick a favorite. I mean, I've had so many. I mean, I've
Yes.
talked to Layla Ali. I've talked to Eva Chen from she works at Instagram. I've talked to Kwame Alexander. Uh, so many amazing authors and I think I've interviewed illustrators as well. So I can't I don't know. I would probably say my first one, only because that was like, the first one that I
Sure.
ever did. And that first one was with Kwame Alexander.
Hmm.
Um, and I got such a good response from that particular interview. So that one will always hold a special place in my heart just because it was the first one
First.
that I ever did. But yeah, it's hard to choose a favorite.
And how is that platform different than what you've been doing with the blog and on Instagram? I mean, I imagine you get to kind of explore topics in a different way than you would just in a post.
Right. I think it's different in that I'm getting to know the author or the illustrator more than just, about what their books are. We're talking about their family life. We're talking about, their tips and tricks that they use for themselves, uh, tips to help other people who might be interested in becoming an author or writer than on their own. And it's kind of much more of like a deeper dive on a personal level
Right.
where I'm getting to connect with these people where I don't really get that on Instagram that much.
Sure. Oh, that makes sense. And that was really neat. Like I said, before I started really researching it, I didn't realize that you're doing a podcast. So I can't wait to go and listen to some of those. Um, But I want to make sure we're getting to the end of our time, but I definitely want to talk about your nonprofit, which is so exciting. That's 50 states, 50 books, and that is making such a big impact in the lives of children. So can you tell us a little more about that and also how people can get involved if they'd like to?
Yeah, so 50 States, 50 Books was an idea that I came up with in the summer of 2018. I wanted a way for my kids to be involved in what I was doing with this whole books stuff. And at the time, I was still working a corporate job. And we, we were doing a lot. We do a lot of reading. We get a lot of books on a daily basis or a weekly basis, pretty much at this point. But I like to purge our books like once per quarter, just go through everything that we don't want anymore or things that the kids have outgrown and just donate them. We were always donating either to Goodwill or to our local library. And one day we were making a donation and my daughter said, Mommy, why are we always giving books to the library? Can't we give books to other kids that don't have books too? And so I said, you know what? That's a great question.
Question, right?
Yeah, and so we did our donation at the library, and then I immediately came home and I was like, wow, what a great question. I'm like, yeah, we should be giving these books to, you know, kids who maybe don't have access to books. And so anyway, I was in the shower. I sat with that day, and I was in the shower the next day, or maybe a couple of days after. And I was in the shower and it just kind of hit me. I'm like, 50 states, 50 books. I'm like, we could give 50 books to each of the 50 US states.
Wow.
And that's what I kind of came up with. And so I immediately got online. I created a website within like a couple of hours because of, you know, my tech background. And so the website was up. Then I reached out to an illustrator because I have Illustrator connections. And I said, hey, could you, I have this idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but can you make me a logo? She did the logo. I pasted it on the website, and I literally just started talking about it on my Instagram page, in my Instagram stories at the time. And I just said, hey, everybody, I have this idea. I just started this new initiative. It's a family initiative. We're calling it 50 States, 50 Books. Go over to our new Instagram page and follow us there. And in that day, I got like over 1,500 followers
Wow.
just from me talking about it. So, people just kind of flocked to it. Nobody knew what was going on. Right. But anyway, so fast forward to today. Today, we are a nonprofit organization. We have donated over 5,000 diverse and inclusive children's books to kids in each of the 50 US states. And we've done it twice already.
Wow.
So each year we collect and donate a total of 2,500 books. So we've done it twice. Now we're doing it a third time, making our way all across the US. So by the end of this phase, we will have donated over 7,500 children's books to each of the 50 US states. So that's pretty much what it is.
That is, and so how do you go about, I think I've seen you ask people, where's a good place to donate in your state? Is that how you kind of use that network that you have already to find out where the best way to get the books to the kids that need them?
Yeah, so we have on our website on the 50 states, so people can go, if people are interested, they can go to 50states50books.net.
And that's with the number 50, right?
Yeah, so right, 50states50books.net. And they can go there. There's a really brief application where people can apply if they are interested in receiving books for their particular state. Okay. It's like 4 questions that you answer. And then my husband and I, we kind of go through all of the applications, and we basically choose. We choose based off of, need first, like where are we going to have the most impact? That's pretty much it. We also have, partnered with some organizations over the years. We've partnered with a publisher before who just donated books to us. So we're doing big things.
Right.
Yeah, we're doing big things, and so we're just excited to see what's going to happen and where this could potentially take us. So, but yeah, if people are interested, they can go to our website. If they are interested in applying for books, they can go there to apply, and they can also go there to find our mailing address if they'd like to donate books, or if they'd like to make a monetary donation, which is tax deductible.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I was really excited to hear about that. So thank you so much. I know we're right about at time, and I just really appreciate you taking the time, because as our viewers can see, you are doing so much work and so much great work. It's just wonderful to have you here. I really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.